Right before we start. I'm always like, okay. Oh, there we go. Sweet. All right. Good afternoon, everyone. I'd like to call this meeting to order and welcome you to the Coeur d'Alene School District 271 regular board meeting of October 9th, 2023. Would everyone please rise and together we'll say the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I'd like to introduce our participants for this evening, and starting at my far right is Ms. Marianne Southwick, our clerk of the board, Dr. Sean Hawker, superintendent. To my left is Mr. Casey Morrisroe, vice chair, Ms. Leslie Bierke, board member, Ms. Heather Tenbrink, board member, Ms. Allie Anderton, board member, and I'm Rebecca Smith, the board chair. Public comment this evening on district-related items is scheduled near the start of the meeting. Please sign up to speak on the sheet provided at the entrance door in the back. Comments may also be submitted to the board via email at trustees@cdaschools.org or in writing through the clerk. Please note that this evening we will not be taking any public comment tonight related to candidate advocacy for the upcoming election, as this is not the appropriate forum for such comments. Thank you. Is there a motion this evening to go ahead and approve tonight's agenda?
So moved.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right. Well, it's really exciting this evening that we get a chance this evening to recognize, and I'm going to call up at least two of these students that I know are here. Yes, their pictures are up there as well. I'm thrilled this evening to be able to recognize three amazing Coeur d'Alene High School seniors, Jamison Dale, Andrew Hubbard, and Isabel Lay, who are among 16,000 semifinalists in the 69th Annual National Merit Scholarship Program. And I believe we have a few of the students here this evening if they'd like to come up, and we'd like to take a moment to recognize you. Congratulations. Congratulations. Few things just about these great students. Well done, first of all. These three talented students are among the highest scoring National Merit Scholarship Program entrants in Idaho. And as semifinalists, they are in the top 1% of all high school seniors in the country. Jamison, Andrew, and Isabella are not only excelling academically, but are also involved in school activities and athletics. We're so proud to say that these three CHS semifinalists also represent the highest number of National Merit Scholarship semifinalists in one single school, public or private, in our whole region. Over 1.3 million students from high schools across the country entered the 2024 National Merit Scholarship Program by taking the preliminary SAT National Merit Scholarship qualifying test, which serves as an initial screen of program entrants. Our three students now have the opportunity to compete for over 7,000 scholarships worth nearly $28 million. Good luck. We hope you get all that you apply for sure. 2024 National Merit Scholarship winners will be announced next spring and summer, and scholarship recipients will join the nearly 375,000 other distinguished young students who have earned the National Merit Scholar title. We're so proud of you guys. Keep up the great work and continue to have a terrific year. Now we'll recognize our Teachers of the Month.
All right. So for September, our high school teacher of the month was Jill Carlson. She's an English teacher at Coeur d'Alene High School. And her principal said, with 25 years of dedication, Jill embodies nurturing, championing the underdog, and building strong connections with both students and staff. Her wry humor adds warmth to the Viking community. Jill's commitment to students and staff truly makes her deserving of this award. So congratulations to Jill. Our middle school teacher of the month was Michelle Bristow. She is a speech language pathologist at Canfield Middle School. Her colleagues say Michelle is deserving of being recognized for her nurturing work and dedication to her students and our team. She has high expectations for her speech and language students while also setting attainable goals. Her students are motivated and excited to work with her every day. Congratulations to Michelle. And then for elementary, for the month of September, our teacher of the month is Tara Gray. She teaches 5th grade at Ramsey Magnet School of Science. And her assistant principal says, Mrs. Gray is a teacher who has high expectations for her students each and every day. She is an active participant on various committees and offers her expertise in the area of technology for all teachers in our building. She is a true professional who is dedicated to her students and is well respected by our staff. So congratulations to Mrs. Gray and to all of our Teachers of the Month this month.
We have 2 high school student body reports this evening, and as our student body is just kind of getting going, we have 2 video presentations. So first up, I believe it's Coeur d'Alene High School.
Good evening, esteemed board chair, honorable trustees, Superintendent Hawker, district employees, and valued community members. I'm Andy Jane Howard, Coeur d'Alene High School's ASB president, and joining me tonight is ASB Vice President Eden Stevens, ASB Spirit Leader Maya Ladder, and ASB Secretary Jenny Elliott.
We kicked off the class of 2024 with our annual Senior Sunrise and Senior Start events. On Thursday, September 7th, we invited all of the seniors to our Viking Field of Dreams to enjoy a yummy breakfast provided by our wonderful VPN and parent volunteers. We watched the sunrise as we prepared ourselves for the upcoming senior year. The following day, we held Senior Start on our football practice field. Students enjoyed a barbecue that was donated by the boosters and field games that were provided by the National Guard. The Student Council arranged for a snow cone truck to attend the event, which was a total hit. The climax of that afternoon was by far the annual Color War, where the entirety of the senior class got to engage in some fun with some paint and shaving. Our spirit and involvement is looking great this year. We are very thankful for all of the support from our valued community members.
This season has been a great one for our fall athletes. Football has had a great season and is currently ranked #1 in the 5A Inland Empire. Boys and girls soccer has been having a great season as well and have had their senior nights. Boys soccer played against Sandpoint for their senior night on Tuesday the 26th, and the girls played against Moscow for their senior night on Friday the 29th. They have had the opportunity to play on the Viking Field of Dreams, and from that our spectator attendance has gone up. Our cross-country teams has also been having a great season, and our boys team is actually currently ranked 10th in the nation. Volleyball has been a fan favorite with our student body, with high attendance and participation with our student section themes. They have been getting lots of victories, including one against our crosstown rivals, Lake City. Swim and golf have also been putting lots of hard work into their seasons, and it has been paying off. We are so proud of our fall athletes.
On September 27th, we hosted the All Things Senior and had a speech given to us by Brad Little and our principal. We are confident that our seniors are prepared for next year. We had colleges from all over the Northwest states come and present their colleges to us. We kicked off the first assembly with high expectations for the rest. From a cheerleading performance to recognizing our student fall athletes, we are prepared for this school year. And we believe it will be the best one yet.
Student Council has been busy preparing for the month of October. It's a busy one for our students. We start off the first week with our Mental Health Week through October 2nd through 7th. This week includes vendors throughout the community providing mental health resources for our students, acts of kindness from Student Council. To end the week, there will be a community tailgate at Lake City. The football game theme is Green Out. We encourage all members of our community to wear green as a recognition of mental health. The second week of October for our Vikings is homecoming. We're incredibly excited. We start off the week Monday night with our annual Powder Puff game. We're excited to see our Lady Vikes out on the turf. We're continuing the tradition of our homecoming parade again this year, and we can't wait to see our sports and clubs recognized. We're so incredibly excited for our homecoming game where we play Post Falls. We hope to see another Viking victory. To end the week, we have our homecoming dance from 7 to 9 p.m. We're incredibly excited to have Inland Society DJing our homecoming this year. Stuco heads to state at the end of the month, where we will receive our OSC award and hopefully win other awards along with that. We're incredibly excited to expand our leadership skills and learn from other schools throughout the state. Have a great day and roll lights!
Thank you, CHS. Next up, we have Lake City.
Good evening, esteemed board chair, honorable trustees, Superintendent Dr. Hawker, Ms. Southwick, district administration, and valued community members. My name is Luke Sharon, and I'm the ASB president at Lake City High School.
My name is Ashley Kearns, and I'm the ASB vice president.
My name is Bradley Gilmore, and I'm the ASB secretary.
My name is Nathan Edmonds, and I'm the ASB treasurer. A couple of weeks ago, we celebrated our homecoming week, and it was truly remarkable. What made it stand out was that we achieved our highest ever profit without raising ticket prices. Because of this, as of right now, we are the most financially stable Lake City student government has ever been.
Our student body has had an absolute blast with our Barbie-themed Spirit Days, with many students dressing up as Barbies and Kens throughout the week. The energy and spirit on campus reached an all-time high, especially at our homecoming assembly, where students showed up and got loud for LCHS.
Our homecoming parade was a sight to behold, breaking all records with 36 fantastic entries. It featured class royalty, the football team, our Grand Marshal, Jen Woodall, and an array of clubs and activities. We paraded through Bluegrass Park in Coeur d'Alene Place, and it was heartwarming to see all the neighborhood community come out to support us, including the enthusiastic kids from Woodland Middle School and Skyway Elementary cheering us on.
The halftime show during the football game was unforgettable, thanks to our incredible marching band and cheer team. It was also when we crowned our homecoming king and queen, Mikey Heischman and Maddie Cook. On Saturday, September 23rd, our homecoming dance took place and was a massive hit. DJ Rocks provided the music, and the Barbie homecoming theme transformed everything and everyone into a sea of pink. It was a night to remember. In summary, Homecoming 2023 was an absolute blast and marked the most successful Lake City homecoming ever.
A couple of weeks ago, we hosted our annual Senior Start event, which was the most attended Senior Start in recent years. Our seniors started out the morning with free breakfast in our commons provided by our senior parents before attending our senior class meeting, where they were informed about graduation plans, updates, and orders for graduation apparel. We then went outside where we took pictures, played games, and finished up with designing and painting senior parking spots. It was a very fun and successful event to kick off senior year. On top of this, we hosted our senior sunrise at Honeysuckle Beach. It was the biggest and most attended senior sunrise ever.
Recently, we planned a highly productive and impactful October for our T-Wolf community. First, we hosted Mental Health Week in collaboration with Sources of Strength and the Coeur d'Alene High School Student Council. This last week was dedicated to spreading positivity, awareness, hope, and love through positive messages, games, challenges, conversations, and educational activities at both Lake City and CHS. Booths were set up during all lunches featuring community organizations offering a wide range of resources. The week culminated with the Green Out football game against Coeur d'Alene, sponsored by the Sheriff's Office, which provided free food for all spectators for the tailgate, regardless of their allegiances. Panhandle Health also contributed with a giant inflatable brain and other mental health resources as well at the tailgate. We extend our gratitude to the board members who attended the game and participated in the meet and greet.
While we were competing on the field, our schools were united in breaking the stigma around mental health, highlighting resources for struggling students, and overall spreading positivity. It was a great week for both schools to focus on mental health.
Lake City also participated in the Student Advisory Group survey to give insight on how students feel about the dress code. We hope by providing this valuable insight we can work together for a new student dress code.
Looking forward, we have the PSAT Day coming up on October 11th. All 9th, 10th, and 11th grade students will be taking the PSAT. Seniors will not be reporting to school, and 9th through 11th graders will be on an early release schedule. Students are preparing for the PSAT, and the 11th graders who take the assessment are entered into the National Merit Scholarship Program by taking the assessment.
We also will be participating in Breast Cancer Awareness Month by hosting fundraisers and information booths this week to support all of our current and former staff members, parents, and community members who have dealt or are dealing with breast cancer. We will also be honoring all of our past and present staff members who have been affected at the Pink Out football game on Friday, October 13th.
We have an exciting month of activities coming up here at Lake City. Many clubs such as improv, gaming, art, speech and debate, and civic engagement are starting back up, and we are excited for our students to get going. We also have district and state tournaments coming up for our fall sports. Our fall teams will be competing very hard, especially our undefeated boys varsity soccer team, who are currently number 3 in the state. We are looking forward to checking on all of our student athletes in this final stretch.
Thank you for the opportunity to show this video at the board meeting. And go T-Wolves!
Thank you, Lake City. There's a lot going on at our high schools. That's terrific. We're going to take a moment now and hear from our student advisory group from Luke Sharon, and Luke's got a presentation. One of the things we thought maybe we'd hold some of our questions, especially because Luke's going to give us part of a presentation on the dress code, and then maybe ask Luke if we need to some more questions later on when we address the dress code more fully in our agenda. So
Yeah.
welcome, Luke.
I want to make sure, you guys can hear me. Okay, quick SAG update. All levels have picked their representatives for the 2023-2024 school year, and will be having their first meeting this month, starting with elementary next week. But that's your SAG update. We haven't had our first meeting. We've had a meeting about the dress code after the 9/11 meeting with middle school and high school SAG, who are returning this year. But I'm going to jump straight into this presentation by first thanking the Board of Trustees for allowing me to give this presentation and kind of explain what Student Advisory Group and the district administration have been working on these past few months and largely for the last year. So this presentation was created by Caleb Torgensen, my Student Advisory Group Vice Chair, and then it was also created by myself. My name is Luke Sharon, and I am the SAG Chair. Oh, perfect. Okay, so first off, I want to talk a little bit about disparities in the current dress code. In the middle school level, as per the 2022-2023 school year, by Skyward data, there was no violations. When it came to high school violations, it came out to 120 as the 2022-2023 school year by Skyward. So this basically proves that there is disparities between secondary education, between high school and middle school. And we can see that here with the 0 and 120. Either middle school administrators aren't inputting the data, which is an issue that needs to be solved in the building administration, or they really aren't having very many violations. But my next slide will talk a little bit more about what we found. We gave out a student survey, which you guys should find somewhere. Someone should give you these survey results.
It's in our packet, and so we've seen it.
Amazing.
Thanks, Luke.
And so we found out that the official violations of the 2022-2023 school year came out to only 21.6% of the spread, while teacher discussions, which when we asked high school students how many of you have had teacher discussions about the way you've dressed, that came out to a 78.4%. So that kind of shows you that teachers are using their own discretion of when to dress code. They aren't really looking at the policy. They may just say put on a hoodie, but that's still talking to that student, not necessarily going through the current dress code policy, because the current dress code policy says that, for example, if I have a hoodie on my chair, I need to put that hoodie on and be essentially have that violation against me. So so that's the current disparity in enforcement. Let me move on if my mouse will work. All right, so we're going to talk a little bit about the sex disparity in enforcement. We know, as per the 2022-2023 school year, I don't remember the exact data, but females were a lot more likely to get dress coded more than once. But in the actual violations, we find out that females had a spread of 81.6%, while males only had a spread of 18.4%. And if you guys want that data from Skyward, I'm sure Dr. Nelson can provide that for you. All right, so moving on. What do teachers want? We asked teachers a lot of questions, and the teacher survey reported that they felt like the dress code is too vague as it stands. They felt like they didn't know what to do in a situation where they need to enforce the dress code. They felt like it wasn't enforced by all, so it was really difficult for them to also enforce it when they didn't really have the incentive of their peers enforcing. They felt like the guidelines weren't clear enough on when to dress code or how. They wanted to focus on the learning environment instead of enforcement, and then they want a dress code that is less reliant on teacher policing. And then lastly, this might have been the biggest comment that we got over the entirety of our survey results. Male teachers especially are uncomfortable discussing appropriate clothing with female students. If you look in the survey results, you'll see a few times where teachers say, as a male teacher, I will never enforce the dress code. All right, let's move on. So we know that as per the teacher survey that teachers do support the new change, 95% of teachers have refrained from enforcing the dress code. So that kind of shows that the current dress code isn't necessarily working. While 77% of teachers support a completely new dress code. That's not with revisions, that's a completely new dress code. Moving on, the current dress code is compromising student-teacher rapport. We know this. 71% of students, said that they have been talked to about dress code, and when they were talked to about dress code, they had a negative impact on their relationship with that teacher. While 67% of teachers reported that confrontation had a negative effect. So obviously, students are feeling that negative impact a little bit more, but teachers still feel that very strongly. And I'm sure it would be even higher if across the board all teachers were enforcing it. Moving on, students support this change. 61% of students support a completely new dress code. Again, not revisions, a completely new dress code. 92% of those students support a more lenient dress code that isn't specifically targeting on like 2.5 inches of straps, or like when you raise your shirt, you can see a little part of your waist. They want a more lenient dress code that allows them to have a little bit more freedom with what they can dress. So how does SAG address these various concerns? First off, we added this kind of gender-neutral language that focuses more on the clothing rather than on the student. We said that the dress code is more basic and adapts easily to new, constantly changing styles and trends without allowing inappropriate, dangerous, or illegal clothing. And then we said it keeps students and teacher relationships in mind in regards to how a student is disciplined for breaking policy. That's something that's really, really important. And then how does SAG address enforcement? This might be the most important thing that Student Advisory Group has done. First off, we added more concise language so it's easier to understand for the students and the administration. We made it clear in the dress code policy that it is the responsibility of building administration to educate their staff on how to enforce. We provided a clear procedure in enforcing student dress, and then we tried our best, and I think we did accomplish it, removing teacher discretion and refocuses to clear guidelines. Moving on. So conclusion on the current dress code. Our current dress code does not protect nor promote parent responsibility. Ultimately, it comes down to the teacher discretion, which does take away the rights of parents to say what the child can wear. It does not limit interpretation based on arbitrary or personal standards. Like we have said before, it does have a lot of teacher discretion within. Does it limit impact on students based on sex? No. In the current dress code, it mentions women's clothing 5 times, unisex clothing 6 times, and does not specifically mention men's clothing whatsoever. And then lastly, does our current dress code prioritize positive student-teacher relationships? Our staff members and our students would say no, as per our survey results. So, moving on. This is what SAG and district proposal. We came back and we heard what the board was saying, and I wanted to address every single one of those concerns specifically, and I think we did that in our new draft. But first, let's focus on some of the more bigger questions. Where did this draft come from? Who made this? What were the factors in creating the draft? So I know you guys can't necessarily see that timeline that well, but I'll read that off just a little bit. So in September of 2022, district administration asked SAG to help create a draft student dress policy. In October of 2022 to January 2023, SAG reports at 4 board meetings that they've been working on a student dress policy with district administration. In late January of 2023, SAG and district administration finished draft student dress policy and waits for first reading. And then September 9/11, board reviews first finished draft student dress policy, and we know that ultimately was not approved. So we heard that, and we heard a lot of your concerns, and what we came away from was the problems with the new draft with the actual content was that it was way too vague. It didn't say what students could wear. There was a lot of interpretation that could have been done within the building more generally. We also heard that clothing expectations needed to be clear. This was a big one from you. It was a little bit of an oversight. No, swimsuits aren't allowed. I think that should be clear, even in the last draft policy. That's not something that we want. I don't think that's something the board wants. No. So how do we address your concerns? We listened. Improvements made to address vagueness and clarify expectations in the new draft. So first, we added language to give direct examples of for example, what a top is: a shirt, blouse, sweater, sweatshirt, tank that covers front, back, sides, and under the arms. We made it clear so there's no interpretation there. We also got rid of all open-ended etceteras and examples of what to wear, so there's no longer etceteras at the end of everything, because obviously, I mean, that opens the door for a lot of things. So we got rid of the etceteras and we made clear examples. And then we also established a definitive must-wear and must-not-wear list. Here are some examples. You guys will see that on the actual full draft dress code policy, but here's some examples. First, must-not-wear: masks that cover the majority of a student's face, swimsuits, see-through materials. There's some more on that list, but those are the three main ones that I felt like needed to be really defined. And then must-wear, we said students must wear clothing that covers private regions, not only private body parts, but the entire corresponding areas, so that it's clear that those entire areas need to be covered. We also said tops and bottoms with specific examples provided, what is allowed, and you'll see that in the draft dress code policy. These revisions aim to ensure clarity and specifics in the dress code, leaving no room for questions when it comes to administration. So I wanted to thank you guys for giving me this opportunity to address the board and to address all of the community members here today. I also, ultimately what Student Advisory Group is asking is that we approve the first reading so we can get more feedback from parents, students, and teachers, so we can actually make this a dress policy that everyone agrees on. So I wanted to thank you guys, and I really value this opportunity. I'll take questions on item 8 with Mr. Derek. Thank you guys so much.
Great. Thank you, Luke, and thank you to the rest of the SAG team for that work, and we'll come back to it in just a few moments. In our packet tonight is the Coeur d'Alene Education Association report. Is there any questions for Mr. Hayes at this time from anyone? No. All right. Well, thank you to the CEA for that report, and we'll continue on. We're going to move into a time here of public comment. And just some reminders for those who might have just come in. I want to remind the public that while this is a meeting of the Board of Trustees that takes place in public, it is not a meeting with the public. It's a meeting of the board to conduct district business. As a reminder, we will not be taking any public comment tonight related to candidate advocacy for the upcoming election, as this is not the appropriate forum for such comments. However, the board does allow a public comment period for district-related items, which is limited to no more than 45 minutes unless the majority of the board votes to extend this time frame. Those wishing to address the board during our public comment period are limited to one comment not to exceed 3 minutes. And at the designated time, you will be welcomed up to the podium right over here. Please state your name and your city of residence. Please keep in mind that board members will not respond to public comment. If you have any handouts for the board, please give them to our clerk, who will disseminate them on your behalf. If I determine that an individual's statement is too lengthy, personally directive, abusive, or repetitive, I may terminate the speaker's privilege to address the board. If you have any additional comments that you would like to submit, you're welcome to do so at trustees@cdaschools.org. This evening, I'd like to welcome Yasmin Harris up to the board, up to the podium, please.
Do I need to?
I think you have to push the button. Yeah. Thank you.
Good evening. Can you hear me? Is it on?
Mm-hmm.
I'm Yasmin Harris.
Let's pause. Sorry.
Again?
There
Better?
you go. Yeah,
Yes.
thanks.
Thanks. I'm Yasmin Harris. I'm from Hayden. I'm here this evening on behalf of a parent who felt that her voice was not being heard, nor did she know where to go to find resolution for her concern. I let her know that I would be attending this evening, and I would be happy to make a public comment on her behalf. So as I mentioned, I'm Yasmin Harris, and I had the opportunity to meet many members of the community while campaigning. And in doing so, one of the number one topics that continues to arise in my conversations is the parents' rights in education. I like to read to you what she said. This is in regards to the SOS Sources of Strength program at Skyway Elementary. This course teaches liberal views around family, gender identity, and spirituality. I have spoken with another parent who was able to pull their child from it at another school. Skyway will not allow him out of it unless I pick him up each time. I work full time. This is not an option. What recourse is next? Meeting with the principal or superintendent? There should be another adult in room available for each half hour it is taught for children whose parents want to protect them and teach our own views on this at home where it belongs. This mom is correct. She should absolutely have every right to pull her child out of this. Yet we are finding, yet we are finding that the parent's voice is not being heard or respected. The fact that this teacher has brought such opposition to her is extremely frustrating and disheartening. This is another example why opting out is not the right option. It should always be opt-in. Another parent I spoke with a couple of days ago let me know that his child has to sit in the hallway while this program is taking place. This girl came home saying she felt like she was missing out, and kids have been picking on her and telling her she's just not cool enough to be part of that program. I feel we need to do better, especially when we keep preaching mental health, inclusion, and positivity. It seems as though it's a one-way street. The parent's voice and choice should matter above all else, no matter what. So why are we making it so hard for them? Thank you.
Thank you. Matt Blatt.
Okay, I'm assuming this is on. Yes, great. So my name is Matt Blatt. I'm in Coeur d'Alene. Full disclosure, I am also campaigning, but I'm here as a parent tonight. I know we keep having the conversation about whether CRT is in our schools. We're always assured there's none. Based on my professional assessment, we have something that's far more insidious. It's the effort to twist our children away from the American concept of petitioning the government for redress and instead towards a lynch mob mentality of community activists and social justice warriors. But even with our attention, we're in a constant game of whack-a-mole with the district. As fast as we parents identify issues requiring your attention, we find another. The latest discovery is RAMP, which is starting at Canfield. The start is innocuous enough, it's just a survey, but this is the first step of the program, which is in flagrant opposition to our community's values. Let me read for you a few position statements from the association with whom you are about to enter into agreements, research, and potentially contracts. The recognized American School Counselor Association Model Program, also known as RAMP, recognizes schools committed to delivering school counseling programs aligned with the ASCA National Model Framework. School counselors work towards cultural competence and engage in anti-racist actions by advocating to change racist policies, procedures, practices, guidelines, and laws contributing to inequities in students' academic, career, and social emotional development. School counselors have a professional and ethical responsibility to expand personal, multicultural, and social justice advocacy, awareness, knowledge, and skills. School counselors support equal opportunity for all to break through stereotypical gender-based behaviors and expectations. School counselors model inclusive language reflecting identities across the gender spectrum. And one that I think we'll find very disturbing, school counselors are encouraged to advocate for a ban on military-style weapons, high-capacity ammunition clips, and products that modify semi-automatics, close loopholes for gun purchases at gun shows, support requirements for a thorough background check on all gun purchases, and oppose any efforts to arm educators, including teachers, school counselors, and administrators. I hope you have the time to complete a diligent review of this organization and its opposition to our values before you continue to engage with them. And thank you for your time and attention on this tonight.
Thank you. Todd Harris.
Good evening. Thank you for the opportunity to speak this evening. I'll be addressing the Sources of Strength program as well. These are some thoughts and some facts that I have researched over the last couple days. The National Alliance on Mental Illness, NAMI, educational programs and support services are subject to critique due to their limited effectiveness and impact. These programs emphasize a narrow focus on biological psychiatry and medications. By neglecting other therapeutic options, NAMI perpetuates a stigma surrounding mental illness and reinforces stereotypes. Also, the lack of transparency regarding financial relationship leaves room for speculation. Regarding the influence of pharmaceutical companies in NAMI's agenda, which accounts for 2/3 of their annual funding, the Sources of Strength program lacks substantial body of research and supports its effectiveness. The program's approaches are not grounded in empirical evidence or validated by scientific studies. Without sufficient research, it is difficult to determine whether the program's strategies and interventions are truly effective in promoting mental health and well-being. The program's reliance on anecdotal evidence and subjective testimonies further weakens its overall validity. Moreover, the lack of rigorous research also hampers the program's ability to adapt and improve its methods over time. Despite claims of effectiveness, an insufficient research base supports the program's approach, which overall diminishes the credibility and effectiveness of the SOS program. The SOS program also raises concerns regarding the lack of informed consent from participants. The program fails to provide participants with a complete understanding of the nature and potential risk of involvement. Without this critical information, individuals may unknowingly agree to participate in a program that could have potential negative consequences for their children. This lack of informed consent undermines the program's ethical foundation and legitimacy. Additionally, the absence of informed consent prevents participants from making an autonomous decision about their involvement, which is essential for any program aimed at promoting mental health and well-being. Now, I served in the military and went through boot camp like a lot of these men and women in this room, and I know the difference between education and indoctrination, and this is indoctrination. Thank you.
Thank you. Nancy King.
Nancy King, Coeur d'Alene. At the September 11th board meeting, the Midtown Center expansion was discussed to the tune of $330,000. When asked about usage of the facility, Mr. Hawker stated the following: "I'm not sure if this room is hardly ever empty. Katie Grotman uses this facility all the time. We use this meeting room all the time. In fact, oftentimes we just can't even book it because it's just booked out so much. It is virtually booked solid Monday through Friday from 8 to 3, virtually all the time. It is just used all the time. Whenever we can get it, we book it." I thought, no way. I did a public records request for the Midtown Center meeting schedule to see if indeed the facility was virtually booked solid Monday through Friday from 8 to 3. I used the school's staff calendars from September 12th, 22 through September 11th, 23. I eliminated holidays, Thanksgiving, Christmas, spring, and summer breaks. I then looked at the hours of scheduled use Monday through Friday from 8 to 3. There was a total of 180 days available for meetings for a total of 1,260 hours. The actual scheduled meetings totaled 494.8 hours. This equates to a 39.3% usage, averaging 2.749 hours per day. Out of the 180 days, there were 62 days that had no scheduled use, and only 27 days, or 15%, were virtually booked solid 8 to 3. Hardly justification for a $330,000 expansion with so many needs within the district. In my opinion, it's very concerning when taxpayers have to fact check what is said by people in power. When an authority figure uses repeated statements, distorting, exaggerating, or whatever you would like to call it, to convince elected officials to hand over $330,000, something is very wrong. Where's the credibility? It makes me wonder what other misrepresentations are presented to the board and taxpayers as fact. This casts serious doubts on anything presented at these meetings. Integrity, ethics, and trust are out the window, and you wonder why taxpayers view the district with great skepticism and distrust. This is unacceptable and is not a good example of leadership for our schools or our students. At the same board meeting, there were concerns expressed by parents and taxpayers on bus route changes. Taxpayers just approved a $25 million levy for the kids, but yet you cut bus routes. Where did For the Kids go? It amazes me that highly paid and educated leadership within this district can't solve the problem. Maybe start with the $330,000 and put it towards the kids and restore the bus routes. Thank you.
Thank you. George Peterson.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. My name is George Peterson, and as you can see, I'm part of the school district. I work at the transportation department, and I'm here tonight because I'm representing a great deal of the employees and the bus drivers at the transportation department in regard to some antiquated and irrelevant regulations that have been placed upon us almost 20-some years ago. And I'm hoping to use some logic and some facts and reason with you tonight to try to get this repealed. I want to also show you this. This is just a list of the drivers who have signed the petition that I had circulated. Not all these names on here are bus drivers. Some of them are administration people, some are mechanics. That's just a list of all the employees in there. So, but you can see that there's quite a few that I represent tonight, and I'd have to say that probably close to 95% of the people are in favor of this. Now, again, the rule that I'm trying to talk to you tonight is about the no right turn on a red signal that was, like I said, put into place 20-some years ago. A lot of things have changed since then, and I'd like to at least give you some background information about what this means, if you haven't heard of it already. It means that we as bus drivers, when we come to a red light at a controlled signal, we're not permitted to turn right until the light turns green. And you know what the situation is out there today with all the traffic and everything. If you're sitting there for quite some time waiting for a green light and you've got a line of cars behind you, you know, a lot of times we get the single finger wave or honking horns and things like that. They don't understand it, and quite frankly, I don't either. One of the things that I'd like to bring up to you tonight is that was a study with the National Institute of Traffic and Safety. It's been done quite a while ago, but I believe it bears out, you know, today. And they come to find out, when talking about buses specifically and right turn on red, that they found that it's less than 0.5% of all the accidents and issues that they have found it to be with bus drivers and incidents of accidents and whatnot. Excuse me. Also, what I did is I went around the line and I looked at some of the larger lawyers that specifically deal with cases that involve bus crashes and incidents like that. And to be honest with you, it doesn't even come up on their top 10 list.
And Mr. Peterson, that's 3 minutes if you want to wrap up your comment. Thank you.
In any case, they will allow us to turn right on an uncontrolled intersection, which there are, just on 95 alone, there are 10, and there are 13 signals. If you guys don't trust the drivers to have the sense enough to drive that bus, and you've hired us to do that job, I think that we're qualified enough to be able to make that decision, and that we do it every day, day in and day out, regardless of the weather, and we do a good job in bringing those children home every day. And I'd like you to reconsider taking that out.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Peterson. Mr. Green?
Well, thanks a lot for the time, and thank you guys again for your service. I'm always saying that. I'll probably always say that forever. And I want to talk today about the dress thing. And appreciate Luke's great presentation. And I don't know if I'm going to add a whole lot to some of his main points. But I'm kind of looking at it through the lens of developmental process for kids growing up. I'm sure all of you in education all your life, or much of your lives, in many different ways, know that the journey from being a little baby in the womb to being a grown-up person producing good things for society, it's quite a long journey. It's kind of complicated, and it's got lots of ups and downs, challenges and victories and defeats, and the ongoing process of just learning to be a good human. And I'm sure that's what everybody wants here. And so I'm thinking of this in terms of a container. You know, in order for things to grow, there's a container, there's light and there's sun and there's nurturing and there's interactions. And every time kids have an interaction with anybody, especially adults that they trust, some things go on in the brain that's giving them information. And that information is getting stored. And you want always that to be safe and nurturing. And I'm sure that's what everybody works for in all the schools here in Coeur d'Alene. And I've seen that personally in schools where I was working, where it's just an amazing environment of grown-ups trying their best to make kids be the best they can be. So I think in terms of that, of being consistent and structured, predictable, safe, and nurturing. I remember when I was teaching in a boys' boarding school in California, they had four classes, freshman, sophomore, junior, senior. And every class had a moderator in charge, so to speak. So I was a sophomore moderator. And that's kind of an oxymoron, saying anybody's in charge of sophomores. But anyway, I found that whole thing of being consistent is really important. I remember one time there was a big fad going around about the movie called Halloween 2 or 3 or something like that. To me, it was a gross kind of movie, but all the freshmen were going, and the sophomores, of whom I was kind of their guy, they wanted to go. We want to go, everybody's going to that movie. And I said, well, great, the freshmen can go, but you're not going. I don't think that that's going to be a great thing for you, because all those images that are on that screen get floating around in your imagination, and it's not that great. So just no. And so they kind of grumbled about it, but they went along with it. And in the end, I know that the kids, as they get older and they become adults, I've heard it often said how much they appreciated the adults in their life who held to a consistent line, and it gave them a structure and a sense of predictability and a sense that there's something that always matters and is always there. And that idea of having an inside world that you can rely on that's always there and consistent is what gets translated into adult relationships, into communities at work.
And Mr. Green, that's 3 minutes if you want to wrap up.
Fast. Well, thanks, Luke. I thought you did a great job. And I always like to hear the SAG. I'm always so impressed with, even the little kids, I really love that too. Anyway, I was just going to say that whatever the code is, if it's predictable, it's enforceable, it's clear, understandable, this is what Luke was saying, that'll make a big difference. And I think, well, uniforms work, but that's kind of that's one end of the spectrum. But you can incorporate predictability and structure and consistency without having uniforms, although that's an easy way to do it. Maybe. Anyway, sorry. Going on and on.
Thank you, Mr. Green. Deanne Clifford.
Good evening. Are we hearing me? Okay. Good evening, respected Chair Smith, our wonderful trustees, Dr. Hawker, Mrs. Southwick. My name's Deanne Clifford. I'm principal at Lake City High School. I'm actually here to talk to you about one of your agenda items, 10C, naming of Lake City High School football field. Please forgive me. I'm going to be speaking to you as a principal, and I'm going to be speaking to you as a mother. So usually I can maintain composure as a principal, but I may not be able to as a parent. Our coach, for whom we would like to name this field, I want to speak on his behalf. Coaching for over 20 years, football and track at Lake City High School. Coach Troxel had a profound impact on our school and our community. We have multiple leaders within our school district and our community who went through and experienced Coach Troxel. The important thing to note is, yes, Coach Troxel won a lot of football games and had a couple of state championships in his career. And I know that is not what he is most proud of or what I am most proud of. What I think is most important is he has created a school with a lot of really deep tradition, a great deal of spirit, and the most important thing that came off that football field every Friday night was young men with great character. I'm thinking about one right now who would love to be here, and he's otherwise busy, but he is our AD, Troy Anderson. He played for Coach Troxel. He has a great deal of esteem for Coach Troxel, and he is now an administrator in the school district because a lot, in part, and also his parents, I would say, had a lot to do with this too, but in part because of Coach Troxel's ability to build leaders. We also, returning to us this year, a really important X factor that we've been missing in our school is a football coach with the kind of energy and excitement built around him. Byron Hout was a player of Coach Troxel. And I had a son during the years that Byron was there, and we watched in awe the making of a young man who has now become an incredible leader of young men. And the most important thing to him is that those boys walk off that field better character built in. I think that's a really important piece of what we're talking about in terms of naming a field. Finally, for
And
my
that's
2
3
sons,
minutes.
thanks. For my two, good, then I won't cry.
Sorry.
For my 2 sons, they both returned to the community and are leaders in our community. One's a surgeon after breaking his back, and Coach Troxel come into his house on occasion after occasion and telling him there's more to life than football. So please consider carefully when you consider the naming of the Lake City High School football field. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. And that is all of our comments this evening for public comment. I'd like to invite Dr. Hawker to give his report this evening. Thanks.
Thanks, Chair Smith and trustees. Added some points of distinction in the board packet that you can take a peek at. I think it's always a great opportunity after we've been in school for a month or so to begin to highlight those many bright spots that we experience over the course of the year. This year, specifically, I just want to kind of share with you a couple of recent reports that had come out on Idaho Ed News. The first one came out a week ago or so on the 5th, and it was entitled Bright Spots Top 10 Lists from Idaho's 2023 ISAT results. I think it's just a great testament of the wonderful work that is occurring here in the school district. So in regards to all traditional public schools, CHS was ranked right at number 10. Public school ISAT math scores, Hayden Meadows was ranked number 9. In the charter magnet non-traditional public school category, which is a little ironic that a public school is in there, but our Sorensen Elementary Schools ranked in there number 2. And that's for math, and then for ELA, Sorensen's ranked in there at number 3, and our Coeur d'Alene Virtual Academy that we started last year is ranked number 10. In regards to large public tradition school districts on ISAT ELA, Coeur d'Alene School District as a whole is ranked number 2 in the state. Large public traditional school districts, ISAT Maths, were ranked number 5. Today, a listing came out, top 10 lists. Statewide scores are down, but here's where they're the best. And in the most improved category, growth in percent of students reading at grade level, Fernan STEM Academy came in at number 2. Large traditional school districts, the percent of students reading at grade level, Coeur d'Alene's number 2. And growth in percentage of students reading at grade level, Coeur d'Alene is number 3. So from an academic perspective, I think there's a lot to tout. We've got work to do. We want to be number 1. but being number 2 and 3 and in these top 10, there are a lot of schools in the state. In regards to other recognition, just wanted to point out, I'll skip over the 3 National Merit Scholars. You already gave them a great recognition. That's a great accomplishment, and just recognizing that they are, they're involved in many other activities and doing all kinds of things, and they're in the top 1% of all high school students in the country. That's a great accolade. Also, we've got a few extracurricular activity highlights to share out. We have a freshman, Trey Lambert from Lake City High School, who tied for 3rd in boys golf this last year, this current season, and ended up being in a playoff and ended up taking 4th in that playoff. So that's pretty awesome. Our Coeur d'Alene girls golf finished runner-up, and that's the Vikings' best finish in program history. The Coeur d'Alene boys golf made a strong bid for their first title since 2004, ended up finishing 3rd. That's a great accomplishment. And as was mentioned as well by the high school update from CHS, the boys cross country team is ranked 10th in the nation. That's pretty impressive as well. And a couple others real quick. Girls soccer, they're playing in tomorrow, where I believe they play Lewiston, and that will be for the district championship. Our boys soccer is traveling to Lake City, where the championship game takes place, so amongst both of our schools. And then, as Luke kind of also mentioned, last week was really great because both schools and the student body combined effort and created a 3rd annual Mental Health Awareness Week. You all saw that as you went to the football game and wore green as well, and it was a great event. So just wanted to give the board a brief highlight and an update of some of those points of distinctions so far this school year. And that's my superintendent report for tonight. Thanks.
Thank you. Any questions for Dr. Hawker? There's a lot of great stuff going on. Next up, we have our consent agenda for this evening. I don't know if there's any additional questions beyond our packet. And if not, is there a motion?
Can I just ask one question for Katie on this? Turnitin. You're asking to renew it for 1 more year. Why is that when we've had it for 6 years? I should have sent that one in.
Good evening, Trustee Bierke. So we're asking for a renewal for 1 more year. We had it for 5 years. This would be the 6th year that we would have had it. It was part of an adoption process done almost 6 years ago now. So we're just asking to fulfill out this remainder of the 6-year adoption this year. And then during the course of this year, we will determine through a ad hoc committee if we are asking for renewal again.
Great, thanks. Is there a motion to approve tonight's consent agenda?
I'll motion to approve the consent agenda.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Any further discussion? All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, consent agenda is approved. There's additional information then, monthly financials. Is there any questions? As we just kind of work through this, is there any additional questions for Shannon on monthly financials? Moving on then, there's the student discipline data, contracted services, textbook, all that information that we've all had a chance to review. And then E, I'd like to welcome up Dr. Nelson.
Chair Smith.
Yes.
Can
go
I
ahead.
can I ask a question on contracted services?
For sure.
So I asked the question in the packet, and the answer about the virtual speech language pathologists, and I guess we haven't been able to hire some speech language pathologists. Is that?
That's exactly correct.
Okay. Or we're still trying to hire.
Oh, you bet.
Okay.
You bet.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
All right. I'd like to welcome you up, Dr. Nelson, just to give us an update on our strategic plan as we continue to roll that out and That'd be great. Thank you.
Absolutely, Chair Smith. Good evening, everybody. Dr. Hawker, members of the board. This is week 6 for us here in Coeur d'Alene Public Schools, and not only is the work going on in the classroom, but throughout the entire district. We also had our first cross-district collaboration where we brought teams of teachers together to continue the work that we had in our Professional Learning Community Summit that we hosted this summer. It's also important for us to remind you that we're in the first year of our brand new strategic plan. And in doing so, this is not something that we just put up for show. This is something that we do to continually attack the needs of our district. Today I have 5 slides that talks to you a little bit about what we have done to start this school year off. First of all, for those of you who aren't as familiar with our strategic plan, it is built with one thing in mind: achievement. As you look at the graphic on the board, our target is specifically on finding out how we can increase our number of national merit semifinalists similar to the ones that you had today, to increase the number of schools that are recognized for their achievement throughout our entire district. It's again great to be number 2 or number 3 as we heard, but as you know, this community demands more. It demands to be number 1. So we have built this with that in mind. Backing up a little bit, we want to make sure that the work that we're doing is built upon trust and transparency, where tonight you'll be able to see those goals within the strategic plan flushed out, and then 4 specific goal areas, each with the individual feathers or fletchings that you see up there. Developing our community partnerships, safe, supportive, and collaborative learning environments, effective and rigorous teaching and learning, and personalized college and career preparedness. How does that play out? Well, the first thing that you need to know is, and for those of you who are here in the room, you may want to do a 180, because in each of our buildings and in each of our public places, we have a display of our strategic plan. It's in the wall directly behind you if you're seated in this room. We've disaggregated. The arrow didn't fit as well, the dart didn't fit as well on there, so we've disaggregated into our 4 strategic goal areas, still have trust and transparency there and achievement. In each of our buildings, this banner is hung. And each of our buildings are going through what are the things that they are working on now. How is it going to be measured? And when can we expect to see it done by? Each of those sheet protectors allows people to push in and pull out, and we've already gone through several of our strategic plan goals in the past couple of days. Right now, goal number 1 is all about academic achievement. As we shared with you and as you affirmed in your goals, we would like to see a 5% increase. By the way, a 5% increase in many cases will put us at number 1. So we are almost there. Number 2 is all about high reliability schools. We'll talk about that here in just a few moments, but making sure that all of our buildings are affirmed to have safe, supportive, and collaborative learning environments by the end of next school year. All of our schools are on that journey right now. The other 2 are things directly out of the playbook that you established this last meeting in the September meeting. Number 3 is all about internal communications, external communications, and trust. And right now, Mrs. Bales, our Director of Community Relations, is building an internal and external communications plan. That should be done by November, as you see there. And then once that's done, we'll flip that out and work on the next sub-goal for that as well. And the final is all about you and making sure that you're working together well and understanding your goals and objectives cohesively as a board, working directly with our district administration for the betterment of our students and hopefully getting to that. So I hope that as you get out into our buildings, you'll see that, and of course you'll see these items flipping in and out all the time. The other thing that's happening is our work around high reliability schools. Our contract with Marzano Resources, which you approved in August, has been actualized, and we welcomed Dr. Tammy Heffelbauer into our district this last week. Not only did our buildings have an opportunity to start talking about what high reliability schools looks like in their buildings, she actually demystified a lot of things in that it's not a layered approach. We are not interested in adding on anything to our hardworking teachers and administrators. We're interested in integrating things together and being recognized for the work that really is exceptional going on into our district. So this graphic that you see up on the screen talks about the 5 levels of high reliability schools. Level 1 is safe, supportive, and collaborative learning environments. We wrote our strategic plan with that in mind. And the post-it notes that you see recognizes individual initiatives and things that our schools are doing right now. And so they started thinking about what makes Venture High School amazing. What are the things that we do at Venture High School? And then they did an activity that said, that would meet the criteria of level 1, level 2, level 3, level 4, level 5. And you'll notice even up and down the list, there are some level 4 sticky notes up there already. So Dr. Heffelbauer will be back with us in January. We're getting some feedback from our leaders who attended this last week, and we'll continue to do that. But again, we know that our goal is that all of our 17 buildings become high reliability certified in level 1 by June of 2025. They're doing that in their school learning plans, which we are just starting to receive. Also to our public, we encourage you to take a look at our Gantt chart. Now it's hard to see on this, but this is a living spreadsheet. And ultimately, every one of the goals that you have identified, plus the goals that our instructional core and cabinet teams have identified, are on a living spreadsheet. This is a view as of Friday afternoon of this last week, but those very small things that you see on the left-hand side, those are all goals. Some of them are sub-goals. Then next to that is who is responsible for those goals. When is the goal going to start? When is the goal going to end? And when do we expect it to be completed by? And then as the chart continues to be filled, you'll notice bars starting to show up and around the way. And this is live right now. The web address is in the bottom right-hand corner of the slide, cdaschools.org/strategic plan. You'll find a little bit more about what we've tried to do with our strategic plan, and you'll see the link to the live Gantt chart in there for anybody. Finally, there's a QR code for that, but this is a quick primer of where we are at right now and hopefully give you some indication of where we would like to go. I'd love to be able to share at any time that you have interest in our strategic plan or the things that we are doing. May I stand for your questions?
Thank you, Dr. Nelson. Any questions?
I just want to clarify. Each school has a banner, but the measured by, expected by, and some of the goals will not be the same.
Correct.
There's some building level goals as well.
Absolutely. Trustee Tinbrink, Chair Smith, and Superintendent Hawker, and members of the board, what we have asked is that everybody's goal 1 be exactly the same. That is a universal goal for all of our buildings. We want to see, no matter where our kids are at, we want to see a 5% increase. We have given flexibility to our buildings to create the goal around high reliability schools because some schools would be approaching it this year, some schools would be approaching it next year. For those schools who are pursuing this year, you'll probably see some work in there around goal 2. But what we wanted it is to be living in each school. So no matter where we are, we all believe in the strategic plan goals. How are you going to be able to address it here at Sorensen, at Lakes, at Coeur d'Alene High School, along the way?
I really like that we also have a reminder, so thanks.
Very good.
Great. Thank you, Dr. Nelson.
My pleasure.
Appreciate that. All right. Come back here. We are going to come back, and I think, Mr. Derrick, I'm going to invite you up for our first reading and come back to the dress code policy, and that is
yes. Thank you, Chair Smith, trustees, and Dr. Hawker. You know, since the last meeting, there has been several hours put into looking at the dress code, and we're trying to find that real sweet spot between, again, parents being the primarily responsible for the dress of their students, but also understanding that, you know, there are times when we need to make sure that our students are dressed appropriately for school. And so, you know, we met with the middle school, high school SAG. I actually met with them on a separate situation for a couple of hours as well. Our SAG advisors that are right here, Jenny Nelson and Rachel Carnes, have been instrumental in really reviewing a lot of the things, the surveys that we put out to staff as well as to students. We reviewed it with our administration and with our district office. And we're trying to find that's, like I said, sweet spot of being specific enough, but yet also being able to, allowing our students to be able to have, you know, some of that freedom of their own dress, as well as their parents to be able to have the main responsibility for it. So as you can see with the dress code, and Luke did a fantastic job of articulating the things that we wanted to be very clear about. And for example, as you'll see in the updated document, updated 10/9/23, what students must not wear. It gives you 5 different items there that are, you know, very specific. Also, what students must wear. There are very specific types of garments that they must wear. There's exceptions because we understand we have a school that has uniforms. We know that there are sometimes some things with some of the classes that we offer that they require specific clothing. But if you go down to the second page where it talks about our core values, I think that's an important piece that we spent a lot of time drafting. And as you look at that, the second one, students have the right to be treated equally. I think Luke talked about that piece where our current dress code, there was some disparity between male and female students. The students, we're trying to make sure that we keep students in class. That's another piece. And as school administration, we will work with them in order to make sure that there's consistency. And that's one of the things that I think our current dress code, there's a lot of inconsistency, and we want to try and make it so there's more consistency in our expectations for student dress. So this is what we're presenting to you today. We are asking that the board would approve the first reading, and we would like to send it out to our community and parents in order to get more input from them as well. As Luke mentioned, we know that this is a policy that has a lot of different passions involved in it, and we want to try and meet and address as many of those as we can. So with that, I'll just open it up and to any questions. Luke can come up here as well if you want to come by me. Luke? You're invited to stand by me. There we go.
First of all, thank you all for all of your work, for all of the SAG supervisors, and thank you for all this work. Really appreciate you taking the feedback and putting it into a next draft. I guess I'll start with one quick question, and it was in the packet for me, is where vulgar language would come in, and where would it that would be the thing that I would have a question about, because I'm not seeing that reflected here. And
it's in the edit today.
It's in the new edit.
Oh,
okay.
It's not in the one that was put up here, but it is in the updated 10.9 draft. If you open that,
okay. Thank you. Got it. Perfect. Thank you. Trustees, feedback, comments.
I guess one of my biggest concerns is whatever policy we end up deciding on, how is administration going to ensure the board that it will be enforced and make sure that that's going to happen? Because obviously right now we have a serious enforcement issue with the policy that's already in place.
And that is the question and the number one issue I think that we're looking at with our current dress code. And in talking to administration, it's for one, I think our current dress code has so many different specifics to it that it becomes something where they're going to have to watch all kinds of different pieces in order to identify. For example, a belt can't be hanging down below, the belt, the loop is one thing in our current dress code. A 2.5-inch strap. I don't want to point out any specific students, but last board meeting we had a outstanding group of students sing for us the national anthem, and even in that group, if we were going to look at the strictest enforcement of the dress code, there was 2 of them that were in violation of the dress code, and yet they were very professional, and I think from their perspective and their parents' perspective felt like they were dressed incredibly appropriate for a school board meeting. And so I guess that's the piece. First of all, we want to really work with our parents, and I think that was even heard in some other of the public comments about our parents. We want to work with them, and we want them to have the primary responsibility for it. And so when there's questions like we have in this policy, how are we going to enforce that? Well, that's my job, isn't it? And so I'm going to have to take this policy, and that's what we've talked a lot about in our administration, and saying, hey, if we've got a policy, we need to be able to enforce it. And that's been a comment even with our administrators right now. It feels like our current policy isn't enforceable from the standpoint of with every little detail, that it has. So you're right. That's a great question, and it's an appropriate question. It's a necessary question, and we need to make sure that the policy that we do adopt in this process, we enforce.
Mine is also along those lines. I won't read you everything I wrote because Allie asked a lot of it, but so I have a comment and a question. The role of the policy as it drives our current decisions is to enforce, change, or abolish. Obviously, we're not looking at abolishing a change, but we're looking at adding a new policy. If this change is supported by the board, it has to be enforced. So I am looking for some assurances on what you're going to do other than it's your job. How will this be enforced? What I would like to see is a consistency among schools, holding accountable administration. Administration sets the tone so that the teachers feel empowered to enforce. I was not surprised, but a little stunned that a lot of the teachers didn't feel backed up by administration on enforcing this dress code. I mean, again, like I said last time, we need a standard of dress. I mean, most of the time, I think the kids that I see look very ready to learn, dress for success, whatever you want to call it. But our job is to teach kids to go on to be productive citizens. And one of those things is we have appropriate dress. Most jobs require appropriate dress. Schools should require that. So again, I'll come back to my question because I could talk about this all day.
Yeah.
What assurances can you give us so that we can support this, that this is actually going to be enforced? Because no policy, any policy is worthless if it's not going to be enforced.
Yeah. Well, Trustee Bierke, I'm not aware, I wasn't around when this current policy was implemented or drafted and put in place, so I don't know. But I can assure you that the policy that's in front of you has been vetted, and we've had numerous conversations with administration, and they are in full support of it. I think that's a big part of it. Sometimes we have to ask the people who are going to enforce it, what can we enforce as well? What's doable? What's viable? And that's a part of it. It's not the only part, but it is a part of it. And so as far as the standpoint, how can we ensure that it's going to be enforced? This is a policy that they've crafted in many ways. They've approved already in multiple times, not only last January, but this one right here. There's been a lot of opportunities for them to critique and to revise this particular policy, and the administrators are saying, this is a policy we can enforce, and we're going to get behind and make sure that it is enforced accurately and consistently. So with that in mind, I think that's a big part of it. It's kind of like getting students to do an assignment. I mean, sometimes you have to ask a little bit of what are the things that we want you to do and make sure that it's relevant to them. And it's relevant to our administrators right now. And I think that's a big part of the puzzle that we're looking at.
Can I say something?
Yep.
Okay. I would also like to address the enforcement thing. I talked to some teachers, and a big thing is that they're required to read the manual when they first get hired, and I'm sure that they have to retouch on it once in a while. I would imagine, but for a lot of teachers, if they have to read that giant manual, how many times are they looking over the dress code? And I think that's probably what a lot of the statistical data is coming from. Is like really, it says in the dress code, if you raise your arms up, if it shows any of your waist, you are dress coded. If your belt is hanging over the loop, you're dress coded. 2.5 inches, you're dress coded. Pajamas, you're dress coded. And I mean, ultimately, teachers aren't going to be enforcing it. That's why when we see the data that says 95% of teachers have chosen not to enforce it at any point in their career, it's shown. As for the enforcement when it comes to administration, we do put that in the dress code policy, specifically where we say that it is the responsibility of administration to make sure that their faculty and their staff and their teachers understand and implement this dress code policy. That's something that isn't in the current dress code policy. The current dress code policy gives it up to teachers to just figure it out. And having the role of the principal or the vice principal, whoever's in charge of discipline, if they have that role in making sure that the teachers and their staff and their faculty understand the dress code policy, then I feel like we do address a lot of the enforcement issues that we currently have in the current dress code.
So I have a couple comments. One of them had to do with enforcement, primarily that when I looked through the teacher comments, they felt like they were kind of on their own in any enforcement. So I like that we're talking about more support from administration. I think that is in the right direction for sure. I also, so it says administration shall notify a student's parent guardian of the school's response to violations of the student dress policy. So the idea is every dress code violation, a parent would be notified, a parent would be brought into the loop, correct?
Correct.
Okay, I like that as well. I'm comfortable sending this out for community input because sometimes we get really good input. So I don't know if it's perfect yet, but I like it better than last month. Yeah.
You haven't said anything.
It's your turn.
So I guess I'll echo what was said. Is I appreciate you guys listening to what the board set up here, and I hope you could understand where we're coming from, and I think you did. You did a nice job addressing our concerns, so I appreciate that. I would agree it's maybe not perfect, and I would maybe reorganize some things a little bit. Like I'd maybe start with what you can wear versus what you can't wear. Just simple little things like that. But I agree. I think it's ready to go out for public comment, and I think it'll be interesting to see what kind of feedback we get on it. One thing that stood out to me was on the teacher survey. So the second to last question was, do you think the policy needs to be reviewed? And 75% or more said yes. And then the next question says, if you said yes, and it had 2 questions. And Luke is like, oh, I knew this was coming. And this is 51% say, would you like to see it more strict and provide clear guidance? And I guess that's a tricky question because I'm assuming most probably answered that thinking I want clearer guidance, but you lump the 2 together. So I guess I'm wondering how much want a more strict policy there, because if you look at it, 51% said more strict and clear.
So that again, oversight on my end. Ultimately, what I was asking in that question is how many of the teachers feel like they need more guidelines, and then the second question, if you could remind me what it was, more lenient and less reliant on teacher enforcement.
You got it.
So what we heard from teachers just across the board, even in the personal comments and just by filling out the survey, is that teachers don't feel supported by administration when it comes to enforcing the dress code. And they want clearer guidelines, and they also want it to be less reliant on them to use their own discretion. And I think at least the reason why I added the lenient part and the more strict part was just because I wanted to see if there was a difference, but obviously there really isn't, because it's almost a 50-50 split. I think that the focus there should be, on that question, should be 50% of teachers want a dress code that is less reliant on teacher policing, while the other 50 say that they want more clear guidelines. And that's what I feel like we did in this dress code, is we gave more clear guidelines, but we also took away a lot of the stuff that might seem repetitive or arbitrary. So ultimately, yeah, the question was phrased not amazing, but like what we were trying to ask is, what do teachers value more? And I think it's pretty clear just based on that question that teachers value more guidelines, and they value a dress code that is less reliant on them to use their own discretion. That's, yeah.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Again, I'll just say I'm supportive of it going out. I think you made the comment about male teachers and being uncomfortable, and I can assure you as a dad of 4 girls, it's just as uncomfortable for those girls to be called out by a male teacher. And, I don't know. I could probably say every day to my kids, that's a dress code violation, and I probably say it a couple times a week. Because, it's just old and outdated. And it's, I don't let my kids wear pajamas to school, but I bet I see 20% of the kids walking in with pajama pants, at least at middle school level for sure. And there's nothing wrong with that. I don't know why that rule's there, but it is, so.
Dress for success, not your jammies. And I too appreciate all the work that you did. It's much, much better than the first draft, so that's great. And I agree it's not 100% perfect, but I'm looking forward to seeing what kind of feedback we get from the community.
Absolutely.
Trustee Anderson?
I was going to add to, just say as well, thank you guys for going back to the drawing board with that and taking our feedback and putting it to use. As far as the board is concerned, since policy is the purview of the board and writing policy is basically kind of what we're here for, I would love the opportunity to sit down in a workshop style environment and address it together as a board and have that conversation going over this, whether it goes out for public comment now or not, before there's an approval process. I would like to do that.
Yeah, that was one suggestion I had with Mr. Derrick afterwards. Just having been through a lot of policies, and this was a big one, right? I mean, sometimes they're just little things. My feedback was, I think we should have taken that to a workshop. Of course, we have lots of new people in our district office, and we haven't done that with anything. But going back further into my history, that's what we would do with a policy like this. There would be a draft. We'd, we'd workshop it and talk about it, and would have caught that before it came like time for public comment. That, boy, our board's not even comfortable with this, and we have some work to do. So I agree.
Thank you.
Great.
As a process moving forward, we send it out for public comment. Could we get that comment and then workshop it based on that comment? Okay.
Yeah, it would probably be December or January before that would happen. So, but yep. Yep. So is there a motion then?
Yeah, so given that, I'll move to accept policy for now and advance it to the public comment period and then revisit after the public comment period. Policy 3255.
I will second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, we'll move that out. And Dr. Hawker and Ms. Southwick, if we can begin to get that on our schedules, that'd be great. We're going to move on then to, and thank you, Luke, for all your work, and Mr. Derrick. We're going to look at then policy 7400, the procurement management system. There was no public comments received. Is there any discussion on this policy?
I don't have any questions or comments. I was just going to say if there aren't, and then we discussed these last month, that I'd be willing to make a motion for both.
On the second one, there is one public comment.
You're right. Okay. I'll just, sorry, thank you for reminding me. I'll move to approve policy 7400 as presented.
I'll second.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right. That policy will go into practice. Policy 7407, there was one public comment received. Is there any additional comments or concerns on that policy? Any further discussion?
I do like the suggestion that's made by the public comment that was made. I think with big decisions like that, with what we're asking of our community, that it would be wise of us to put that out for public comment to them before making such big decisions.
So what would that look like?
Granted, it would take more time, but when we're looking at procuring services that are going to cost this amount of money, then maybe there needs to be a statement made to the public and given the opportunity to make comment on that, give their feedback. I'm not exactly sure how that would look, but I like the idea.
I wasn't exactly sure what they're referring to, because with some of these, I think I've, at least boundaries and schedules, I remember going through both of those, right? Because those are both like two of the worst things you could try to address. And this is going back, and it's pre-COVID, so my memory's kind of shot. But I don't think we hired a consulting firm with boundaries. I think we had someone who kind of helped with data and plotting and assisting. I think it was Jay in our office, district office at that time, that did all that kind of mapping work. But I don't think there was a big contract there. And same with schedules. If I'm sure we had someone helping us somewhere along the line, but that was like a forever conversation that I don't remember a consultant in that, but I get what they're saying. And I think, I don't know, when it is a large contract, and I guess what's your definition of large, it does come to the board for approval, right? So it's at what point?
But do we always take public comment on it beforehand, or is it just an action item?
It's an action item that allows for public comment, right? I mean,
I guess I'm looking back to even procuring the services of the company that helped us with advertising for the levy and putting that out. That was a large amount of money that we had quite a bit of discussion about. But did the public have the opportunity to weigh in on that before the decision was made?
I would say no, because that was under the threshold, so it didn't even need board approval, right? I think Dr. Hawker brought that to us because he wanted our approval, but it didn't require it, right? Because it was under the limit.
And just to clarify, I'm reading here, and Shannon, she isn't even here. It does, she is? That's okay, Shannon. I'm just reading what it says. Board approval will stay at 50,000, because there's like all these numbers in there, but then it's still everything that's 50,000 or more will still come to us. Okay, I like that. Okay, that was it. Thank you. You didn't have to answer it.
I guess I just think about like this SLP contract that was in here, right? Like, it was under a contracted
So SPED contracts you don't have.
7C. Oh.
SPED contracts don't require board approval. They require kind of board recognition, and they're presented to us, but we don't have a choice, right? We have to provide those services.
Well, I was just thinking, what would public input even look like?
Yeah. I mean, it's impossible on those, right? Because the student privacy, we don't know,
Right,
and the public's
yeah.
not going to know what that specific service is and to who or how many, right? But yeah.
Yeah, I'm not sure what exactly then we're asking here, because I'd be concerned about there's some things that come to us that are just that are also part of the process, and that's partially just our job is to make sure that we're, representing the public on those, and waiting another 30 days on or whatever the process, we'd have to come up with a different process. So Dr. Hawker, do you have any input on that, or thoughts from what you've heard, or how it would?
I do. I think there's multiple opportunities for community to provide input in regards to expenses. We do a lot of budget work, a lot of budget pre-meetings. Board approves those budgets specifically, so there's opportunities there. The board could always choose when a large purchase of some sort of a procurement is presented for approval. The board can always pause on that, and we can do whatever. But I think, just as we've been talking about, there are many contracts, many things that it is what it is. You're going to need to provide those services, and to delay 30 extra days or something to receive, additional public input may or may not be fruitful in making that decision. As you just said, I think your SLP contracts have been a great example. We're required to provide them, so I wouldn't want to bog down the process by putting those out and receiving input. I think the upside of policy 7407 is we did place that out for input. We received one public comment. Certainly not a bad comment. I think it's a good note. But again, I don't think it's relevant to specifically 7407. We will bring everything to you for approval above 50,000 anyway. This is just increasing that threshold for us before we have to go out to bid or those kinds of things.
I like that attitude of we can choose, right? Yes. Because, one of the largest contracts we did recently was our SRO contract. I think our community clearly wants SROs. So, I like the, at our discretion.
Yeah, I can agree on that.
Is there a motion? Then there's a
Yeah. I'll make a motion to approve policy 7407 as presented.
I'll second.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right. We'll move forward then. Stop. We're gonna Dr. Voller. See, you got an upgrade, Mr. Voller. Sewer from that to sewer lift stations. So thank you.
I do get the fun topics.
You get the
don't
good stuff.
I know. All right. Well, good evening, Chair Smith, Dr. Hawker, members of the board. Tonight I want to talk to you about the MOU that you see in your packet, and we could have put that in consent, but I wanted just the opportunity to discuss that a little bit with you just to make sure you understood what was behind this. This MOU is referencing the 40 acres that the district owns that is just north of Prairie Avenue. And just for reference, I've got this up on the screen here. So our 40 acres is, oops, hang on, I think Seth and I are both controlling it here. Give me 1 second to get this up. Okay, so our 40 acres is this parcel right down in here off of Bean and Harvest Avenue. If you look at it, this is the way that this parcel looks today. It's basically open farmland right here where the cursor is. And so all of the acreage around this whole area has now been bought by developers. And so there are a lot of plans going on for some development to happen in this area. You can see some development. These are the apartments right up here on Hayden Avenue that have already gone in. And so just for reference, this is Hutter Avenue right here, Hayden Avenue to the north, and this is just north of Prairie Avenue. So just so for reference of where we're talking, where this property is located. Many of the developers in this area have approached the district to say, hey, would you be willing to participate with us in bringing in sewer to this area? We know that bringing in infrastructure to any of these properties is really important. We can't consider building anything on this property unless we have that infrastructure in place. Probably the most critical for that path to happen is sewer. And so the proposal that the developers have brought to us, knowing that the district doesn't have a ton of cash to put towards projects like this, is to say, would the district consider parceling off up to 0.4 acres that we would dedicate to the city of Hayden, and that would be the acreage needed to put in a sewer lift station. That sewer lift station is part of the master plan for the city of Hayden with their sewer department. So it is necessary. It's known that something to that nature needs to go into this area. And so the proposal before you through this MOU is for the district to parcel off 0.4 acres. I can't tell you exactly where it's going to go. I can tell you where I believe it will go. It will go in the northwest corner of the property, right in here. This is the low point of the property. So basically, all of the drainage comes down this way of all of this land. So it makes a lot of sense that that is the natural spot for sewer to flow. It'll go to the lift station, then it pumps to the processing plants. Just to clarify the details of how those lift stations work. I feel like it's a really reasonable ask for the district. Dedicating 0.4 acres of property that we already own is really minimal, and carving out that property. Yes, it does take a little bit of property away from the construction of school. It's right in the corner, so it's something that we could very easily work around when we go to develop and design what a school would look like on that property. And again, there would be no financial contribution to that from the district. That being said, then the developers would pay for the lift station. The lift station is about $1.8 to $2 million is the estimated cost to construct that lift station. And so if we were asked to participate in that, similar to how we were asked to participate in like sewer and roads when we built Nexa, we could be on the hook for up to $400,000 worth of infrastructure to go and to participate as a developer in these properties. So again, I feel like it's a very reasonable, financially prudent ask for these developers to support that, with the district contributing the land for that. We are legally able to parcel off that land, dedicate it to the city of Hayden, because that is going to another public entity. So it's actually the city of Hayden that would own that land that we would parcel off and give it to. So, next steps would be sewer studies. The MOU says it will, contemplate in those sewer studies a large high school on that location, so that we know we have enough sewer for whatever the district would do for that land in the future. And so I think those are kind of the details, and I just wanted to make sure you understood that as the board, and if you had any questions, I'd be happy to answer those right now.
Great, thank you. Any questions for Mr. Bowler at this point?
No. Yeah, no questions. I see this as a win-win for sure for the district, because not only would that bring sewer to that site, but it probably brings roads with it. That are going to follow, and as we know, roads are expensive, and sewer is too, so I think it's great.
And I think it will increase
pretty much
the overall value of the property too, should the district just go a completely different direction in the future, right? I mean, the more infrastructure you have, the value is increasing in that property, because right now it's valued with no support to it. So.
Do we need to address in the MOU any? Is there any limitation? Let's say, 10 years down the road, we decide, okay, we don't need another high school. We need 10 acres for an elementary school, and we're going to, sell off 30 acres, and it's going to get developed out. Is there any restriction on us as far as how we utilize the property, or we...
No, I don't think there's any restriction on that. And like I said, I asked in the sewer studies to be contemplated as a large high school, right? That way I feel like we have enough volume in that sewer that if we, did a smaller school, it would be covered for that. If we, sold it off to a developer, it would be the developer's responsibility to verify that. But, factoring in that, it is been contemplated in the studies for a large high school in there, I have to think that, it should be able to accommodate anything that we would do in the future if we, chose to do something different with that property.
It may be something we want to look at and just make sure, well, what if, we never need it, this turns into 40 acres of homes. Mm-hmm. Is the capacity there for that?
Yep, can look into that. Yeah, and we can look into that when they do the sewer studies, because those will be the next steps. Is they'll do some additional sewer studies to look at that. The developers will do that. The City of Hayden will verify those to make sure that they need to verify the depth of that sewer station, that lift station, to make sure everything drains to it, and then what size pumps do they need to get it to the processing plant and things like that. So there's quite a few next steps ahead of us, but it allows us that opportunity to continue those conversations, to move forward with that, and then this will come back to the board once we know what the exact parcel will be. There will be a resolution for the dedication that'll go with the City of Hayden. So this isn't the last time you will see it. This MOU is simply saying, yes, we agree with this. We think this is a win, as Casey mentioned, and allows us to continue to move forward and continue these conversations with both the developers and the City of Hayden.
All right. There is it is action.
I move to approve the memorandum of understanding for a sewer lift station as presented.
I'll second.
Any further discussion? All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right. Thanks, Mr. Bowler.
Thank you.
Next on our agenda, we have our the 2023-2024 board leadership goals that we workshopped and that we started discussing first at our board retreat back in August. We brought these forth and wanted to see if there's any further discussion or if we just want to motion to approve them this evening. All right. Is there a motion to approve these are our goals as a board and leadership and kind of flow all together with our strategic plan and our focus this next coming year?
I move to approve the 2023-24 board and leadership goals as presented.
I'll second.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right. They're great goals for us as a team. Next up is the naming of Lake City High School football field. And is there any sort of presentation or we have all the information there, Dr. Hawker?
You do. You have the information. You also heard from Principal Clifford. So certainly we'll entertain any conversations, answer any questions anybody might have, but the question's yours.
I'll maybe speak to this one real quick because I know Coach Troxel and know his wife Karen Troxel, who was a longtime teacher in the district. My wife actually student taught with her at Skyway Elementary many years ago. I guess I won't date her. And I think it's fantastic. I think of Coeur d'Alene High School, and over there we have Ted Page baseball field, who was a PE teacher and a longtime coach at Coeur d'Alene High when I was a student there 100 years ago, and Larry Schwenke softball field. And he also was a coach and a fantastic teacher and administrator, and he's still around today, participating with our district and committee. So I think this is a great honor, and I think Coach Troxel is certainly well-deserving as a coach and as a teacher and leader in our district. So I fully support.
Thanks. Thanks for those words. Any further comments or? Terrific. Is there a motion?
I'll move to approve naming the Lake City High School football field Van Troxel Field as presented.
I'll second. Nope. Go ahead. Go ahead.
Go ahead. I'll second.
All right. Any further discussion? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? All right. Congratulations. There you go. Yay. There's 3 upcoming dates right there. We've got a workshop on October 23rd. November 13th is our regular board meeting right back here. And then in November, the 15th through the 17th is the ISBA annual convention. And so things coming up. We are going to move into then, and then we'll take a quick break to clear the room, but we're going to move into executive session. And so we're going to move into executive session per Idaho Code 74-2061F to communicate with legal counsel for the public agency to discuss the legal ramifications of and legal options for pending litigation or controversies not yet being litigated but imminently likely to be litigated. Is there a motion?
So moved.
I'll second.
Roll call. Yes.
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 Terrific. We will move in. We'll take a quick 2-minute break to clear the room. Thank you all for coming this evening.